Part 75. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 759. Standing on a carrying platform, Ziluo observed the rock walls above and around him, the laid lines, and the lights hanging overhead. I didn't expect you to build the headquarters underground. Although it is risky, it can avoid direct attacks by chaotic creatures. It is a good idea. Ziluo observed for a while and commented that the demigod warrior was not dissatisfied with the evaluation of the beautiful woman behind him. Your Majesty the Chief Judge, this is a decision made by the Legion commanders after careful consideration. Before you and reinforcements arrive, we have no ability to take the initiative to attack. We can only do our best to resist the offensive of chaotic creatures. Among the chaotic creatures attacking the Kaya world this time, there are Chaos Lords. They are not stupid. Recently, they have been looking for weaknesses in our defense line. But as long as you believe that those chaotic creatures won't be arrogant for long. The demigod warrior was full of confidence in his words, and he was sure of victory in the war with the chaotic creatures. Even though they had been fighting the chaotic creatures here for a long time, it did not hit him. You are right. Chaos creatures are not terrible. In the war with them, we will definitely win. Ziluo believed the same, even if there were overwhelming chaos beasts and a fleet of chaotic creatures outside the sky above their heads. After riding on the carrier platform for a few minutes, Ziluo finally met the person in charge of the defense of the world of Kaya and the commander of the demigod army, an old man with gray hair on his temples and tough facial lines, wearing silver armor dotted with platinum patterns. Minggui, he was the first demigod warrior to successfully receive the enhancement of the second-generation super-modified warrior, and subsequent demigod warriors were built based on his template. He has the tallest body even among demigod warriors. After standing up, Ziluo is like a child in front of him. Welcome, Your Excellency, Judge Ziluo. Minggui looked down at Ziluo and performed a military salute. The sense of oppression brought by his tall body was unimaginable to ordinary people, but Ziluo was a god-level angel who could wield a 1,000-meter giant ship. Her huge size could not give her any pressure. Facing the greetings from the commander of the demigod army, Ziluo also returned the greeting with a military salute to show respect for the most loyal mortal warrior under the Queen's command. What happened after that was very simple. Minggui held a top tactical meeting, and all the commanders of the regiments defending in various areas of the Kaya world were present in the form of projections. Everyone, the goddess's reinforcements are about to arrive one after another, but we can't just wait for the goddess's help. Before, we lacked the means to deal with the chaos beasts and biological warships, but it is different now. Our colleagues, the first team of the Judgment Angels, the most powerful individual combatants in the world of justice, have arrived in Kaya. From today on, chaos can no longer continue to rage above our heads. We have been on the defensive for so long, it's time to let those chaotic bastards know that we are not easy to mess with. Minggui's character is completely opposite to his mature face. He strongly advocates taking the initiative in meetings, as if he is a young and energetic young man. But what surprised Ziluo was that Mingguy's proposal was approved by most of the Legion commanders present. The minority group was not hesitant about whether to take the initiative, but suggested whether it was necessary to test the reality of the chaotic creatures first. Ziluo also interjected from time to time to express her views. She had no objection to Mingguy's battle plan because she was not familiar with how to lead a group of flightless warriors in combat. Whether it is ran with outstanding command ability or other high-level angels who are good at command, the battle plans will be subconsciously formulated according to the standards of angel warriors. But the actual situation is that even the most elite demigod army in the army of the world of justice is still far behind the strength of ordinary angel warriors, not to mention that they can't fly. Even if the demigod warriors can fly, they can't catch up to a fraction of the angels. Therefore, whether they are Ran or other angels, when they direct the ordinary defense forces and elite legions to march, they feel like turtles crawling. This feeling make them extremely uncomfortable. Therefore, gradually the angels gave up participating in the formulation of tactical plans, and instead led a small number of angel warriors to cooperate with large forces in group combat mode. In fact, the results achieved by this kind of cooperation are often very gratifying. The powerful angels can often easily tear open the enemy's defense line and cut the enemy's formation and fleet to pieces. At this time, when large forces or fleets press forward, it can often form a local situation where more people fight fewer people, and some battles that usually require huge costs can be easily won. By the time the meeting ended, Hemingway had discussed the battle plan with the commanders of each legion, and Zilugo also understood the part he needed to be responsible for. Strictly speaking, the battle plan this time is to launch a massive counterattack through coordination with the God's fleet, to rub off the energy of the chaotic creatures, and at the same time to improve one's own morale. What Zilugo doesn't know is that the demigod warriors have always believed that they are the strongest army in the Justice World's combat sequence and the last line of defense in the Justice World. The war with the Eternal Ascended Ones made them even more convinced of this, because the goddess did not choose to use them even when she was short of troops. It wasn't until the chaos virus invaded and the world of justice fell into a life and death crisis that the goddess used them. But reality gave the demigod army a huge blow. They fought bloody battles with chaotic creatures in the world of Kea for several years. Not only did they fail to annihilate the chaotic creatures, they also suffered considerable losses. However, the elite legion and defense force, which they had always looked down upon, successfully defeated the Eternal Ascended Ones and achieved an extremely dazzling victory. Although there are some objective factors, the demigod army just feels that it cannot swallow this breath. Of course, those who can become a member of the demigod army are not fools, and they will never blindly advance before they are sure. Now when the Angel of Judgment arrives, as a high-level executive in the world of justice, Hemingway, who has a clear understanding of the combat effectiveness of angels, will naturally take advantage of this great opportunity to fight a beautiful counterattack and prove to others that their demigod army is not just mud. Pinch. After Zilugo returned to his team station, he also relayed the battle plan to other angels through team communication so that everyone could be prepared. A few days later, Zilugo opened his eyes. Behind him were the Judgment Angels standing neatly, wearing angel armor. Compared with the standard angel armor of Merlot Heaven, the armor of Judgment Angel has richer details. A layer of tough protective lining is added to the originally exposed thighs and arms. This inner lining can effectively protect against most corrosive energy damage and resist energy burns and other injuries. It is one of the few pieces of equipment in the Makra world that can be equipped for angels. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 760. Zilugo flapped her wings and floated in front of the angels. Even though she had worn this protective lining made of extremely thin metal wires in battle several times, she was still a little uncomfortable with it, even if this lining had many functions. Hemingway's battle plan is not complicated. A simple description is that Zilugo leads the Angel of Judgment to attack from the inside of Kea world, and at the same time, the fleet of God will also attack simultaneously. The two work together to strangle the chaotic creatures in the same area until a gap is opened, and then join together to launch a battle of annihilation. While doing our best to reduce the number of chaotic creatures, we should also open up the connection between the fleet of gods and the demigod legions and divine guards on the surface of Kea world, prepare for the subsequent counterattack, and also make good use of those who are jealous of the treatment of the demigod legions. Look at the capabilities of the demigod army. Zilugo carried out his flaming sword, and many judgment angels behind him also carried out their own weapons. However, it was not a flaming sword, but a special model. The Fanshen sword Pojun Type 1 was specially provided for angels to use. It was cast by the God's throne. World production. The reason why the flaming swords are not installed in batches is simply because the world of justice does not have enough red gold mines. As the main material of the flaming swords, this special mineral vein is very rare in the Chaos Star Sea. In the end, the standard weapon of the Judgment Angel had to be designated as a special model of Fan Shenjian. Compared with the standard Fan Shenjian Type 2, the structure of Fan Shenjian's military breaking type was more complex, and the materials and processing methods were more advanced. All its core processing procedures are completed in the Star Ring experimental area of the God's Throne world. Except that its strength is slightly inferior to that of the Flaming Sword and it does not have a weapon engine, it is comparable to the Flaming Sword in terms of attack power and destructive power. Of course, in addition to Makra world, Binghua also participated in part of this design. In the end, it was under her instructions that the God Seat world was finally finalized and produced. Its sword body is straight, between the range of the heavy sword and the long sword. The grip is slightly longer than that of the flaming sword. It can be held single-handedly with both hands at the same time. It has the function of cutting with ion energy. When turned on, the sword's edge will be covered with a layer of scorching ultra-high temperature plasma energy, which can easily cut through most known solid alloys. The disadvantage is that it cannot be maintained forever. Every 10 minutes it is turned on, it needs to be cooled for 1 minute. This shortcoming is not a big deal in the hands of Angel. After all, Angel's fighting style is to raid quickly and rarely fight with the enemy. Of course, some angels among the Judgment Angels who have learned energy-driven algorithms will be issued Fan Shenjian Pajun Type 2. The sword body will be engraved with a special sacred language and equipped with a weapon engine sufficient to unleash their abilities to enhance their combat capabilities. Ability. The reason why every angel warrior is not equipped with a flaming sword with a weapon engine like the Merlot Heavenly Court is because the foundation of the Justice world is far less profound than that of the Merlot Heavenly Court. Coupled with the need to maintain a large-scale defense force and elite legions, the weapons of the Judgment Angels can only be chosen in compromise for the time being. Of course, the Justice world has also been expanding the production scale of cutting-edge weapons, and the Judgment Angel department has only been established for a few hundred years. Both Makra and Fanshan are constantly groping forward in terms of how to mass-produce cutting-edge weapons on a large scale, but currently only the Star Ring established by Binghua on the world of God's Throne has the ability to produce such weapons. As the leader of the manufacturing industry in the Justice world, Fanshan world has been jealous of Star Rings for a long time. Recently, it finally received authorization and plans to build 2 low-end versions of Star Rings simultaneously in the near future to smelt and synthesize some precious high-end materials. According to expectations, if these 2 stellar rings are successfully constructed and put into use, small-scale mass production of Immortals and Apocalypse will become possible. Of course, these are all issues that the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Military Affairs of Binghua and the Justice world need to consider, and they are not at all critical to the war in the Kaya world. After waiting for several hours, Ziluo finally received a message from Hemingway. The fleet of God had arrived at the expected location and had already attracted some of the attention of the Chaos Army. Upon hearing this, Ziluo, who had been closing her eyes to rest and waiting for news, suddenly opened her eyes, raised her head, and looked at the dim sky with her blue eyes. "Sisters! Burn the enemies of the world of justice!" Ziluo shouted loudly, pointed the flaming sword in his hand high into the sky, and then quickly fanned his angel wings and jumped out, climbing quickly towards the sky. Seeing this, the rest of the Judgment Angels followed up with weapons in hand. In the blink of an eye, they crossed the distance of 10,000 meters and reached the atmosphere. At this time, they could vaguely see the huge chaotic beasts and slender beasts wandering in the universe. A biological battleship with a ferocious face. The originally empty cosmic space, due to the long stay of chaotic creatures, was filled with clusters of unknown sarcomas that were constantly stirring slightly, with a faint orange light shining through the interior. Seeing that Ziluo was about to hit the space-time shield of Kaya world, The next moment the space-time shield system in this area suddenly opened a huge gap. Zilugo and a group of Judgment Angels rushed straight out of the giant space-time shield system of Kea world. But just as they rushed out, Zilugo's eyebrows couldn't help but frown. Because the surrounding environment was so disgusting to her, the ubiquitous chaos virus aggregates clung to her armor like puddles of viscous liquid. But the next moment, surging dark energy burned on her body surface, and the orange flame burned the approaching chaos virus aggregate into nothingness in an instant. Other Judgment Angels also follow the same example, but because their proficiency in energy-driven technology is different, the burning intensity of the dark energy flames on their bodies also varies widely. But this is enough. Chaos virus is extremely fragile before it has a body. This can not only isolate the erosion of chaos virus, but also prevent Zilugo and his group of angels who go deep into the realm of chaotic creatures from being distracted by the surrounding environment. Then, without 11 Lugo's orders, the Judgment Angels spontaneously dispersed around, gathering into small teams with the elite Judgment Angels holding the Type 2 Fan Shenjian as the center. These elite Judgment Angels holding Fan Shenjian Pajun Type 2 Fan Shenjian saw the surrounding enemies attacking, connected to the weapon engine at the sword grid, and introduced the flame bombing algorithm. In an instant, fire clouds bloomed among the approaching chaotic creatures. With such terrifying power, even the chaotic beasts were blown open and their skin and flesh were torn open, and they kept roaring. But in the face of the flexibly interspersed angels, the chaos behemoth's relatively slow attack movements could only hit a lonely target. Zilugo, as the most powerful individual among the Judgment Angels present, rushed head-on towards a biological warship. He was not afraid at all when faced with the terrifying mouth that opened and occupied the entire field of vision and the dark throat that looked like an abyss. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 761. Zilugo raised the flaming sword in front of him, and his eyes fell on the sacred inscription that gradually emerged with a dazzling light on the sword's spine, ignoring the huge mouth that was gradually closing. When Zilugo was completely isolated from the outside world, before the biological battleship that swallowed a god-level angel could taste the taste, an extremely hot and explosive energy exploded in his throat. The biological battleship was forced to open its closed mouth, and an orange-red energy surge surged out. The next moment, this energy expanded and exploded again. The biological battleship's throat was directly exploded, and the burnt flesh and blood flew everywhere. The connection between the biological battleship's head and body was almost severed, leaving only some broken bones and muscles connecting the body. Zilugo, who was unharmed, emerged from the swelling fire cloud at this time, and then swung two giant cross-flaming slashes to cut off the biological battleship that had just swallowed him, and finally severed the part where the head was connected to the body. Faced with the sudden attack by the Angel of Judgment, the chaotic creatures, which had been unable to invade Kea's surface on a large scale because of the space-time shield, became angry. They all gathered towards the area where Zilugo was located. The scene was extremely terrifying. Chaos behemoths and biological warships were squeezing each other and rushing over, like a twisted sea of flesh and blood. However, Zilugo is not alone in his fight. The dazzling beams of light that penetrate the stars and span the space are shot from one direction. Some behemoths of chaos were directly penetrated through their bodies. Even the thick-skinned biological battleships had their flesh and blood shattered by the explosion, exposing the fragile chambers that undulated within their bodies. Zilugo moved his body sideways to avoid a giant scratching claw, and a projection jumped out in front of his eyes. Your Majesty, the Archangel of Judgment, God's fleet has arrived at the battlefield. We shouldn't be late, right? God's fleet, the Commander-in-Chief said in the communication. After Zilugo swung a giant flame slash to repel the approaching chaotic beast, his eyes fell on the projection light screen. You came at the right time, otherwise you would not be able to catch this feast. Ziluo replied, but the reason why the commander-in-chief of God's fleet contacted Ziluo was not just to talk nonsense. Your Majesty the Chief Judge, our fleet has extremely powerful firepower. Please leave those biological warships to us to deal with. 11 Luo glanced at the battlefield casually and found that ordinary judgment angels could deal with the chaos behemoth, but when faced with biological battleships that were thousands of meters long, they would not be able to cause any effective damage at all for a while. Decisively. Okay, it just so happens that we aren't very good at dealing with them either. Don't worry, we won't let a chaotic beast get close to you. Seeing that the fleet commander was hesitant to speak, Ziluo said something more. Hearing this, the fleet commander nodded. May victory belong to a just world. Ziluo responded with the same words, and then the communication was disconnected. Now that their respective tasks have been assigned, the next step is how to complete the part that they are responsible for. Ziluo immediately opened communications with all the judgment angels, asking the sisters to change their goals, prioritize the destruction of the chaos beasts, and cover the God's fleet to prevent the enemy from getting close to them. The God's fleet also began to concentrate its firepower on attacking the biological warships. For a time, the two cooperated in an unusually tacit understanding. Among them, the God's fleet felt extremely comfortable, and the battle had never been so smooth. Contrary to the Justice World side, the Chaos Army felt extremely uncomfortable. The previous tactics of relying on numerical superiority to directly overwhelm them did not seem to be very effective. Those angels were very fierce, and the behemoths of chaos fell under their swords one after another, and the even larger biological battleships were also targeted one by one. At the same time, from the gap in the space-time shield that was opened, a large group of air and space fighters flew out and joined the battle. Just then, some of the biological battleships among the chaotic creatures began to release flat chaotic creatures several meters long with long tentacles from their bodies. The targets of aerospace fighters were precisely these gadgets. Without saying hello in advance, the Judgment Angel and these demigod warriors driving aerospace fighters reached a silent tacit understanding. The angels reaped the chaos behemoths, the aerial fighter planes kept shooting down the small chaotic creatures that wanted to harass the angels, and the fleet of gods kept setting fire to the giant biological warships. For a time, the battlefield became orderly, and the world of justice continued to push the front forward. Although the army of chaos continued to surge forward, it still could not restore the decline. We can't continue to use it like this. Our biological energy reserves are about to bottom out. This group of flesh and blood beings is more powerful than we expected. We must come up with our own incarnations, otherwise what awaits us is their ruthless elimination. My infected legion has been reduced by nearly 2/3, and my rate of replenishment can no longer keep up with the loss of my legion. In a special wave band unknown to the world of justice, a psychic communication network covering the star field was constructed, with a biological battleship wandering in the universe as a base station to transmit information further afield. The highly intelligent Chaos Lords thought that this invasion of the justice world would be a gluttonous feast, but as soon as they tasted some sweetness, several of their front teeth were broken by the Chaos world. Even though several Chaos Lords, who had long realized that this world was not easy to digest, moved to other worlds in this star field, they did not receive the biological energy supply they imagined. On the contrary, because the space-time shield system encountered obstacles at every turn, one Chaos Lord was so unlucky that his main ship was attacked by a Chaos Hunter and almost lost his family. Chaos, which lacks a hotbed for growth, has not developed enough power to swallow up the sky and the earth, so it is trapped in the star field by the world of justice, and has been unable to break into the hinterland of the world of justice. If the chaos virus rushes toward the core area of the justice world without hesitation at the beginning, Binghua will be overwhelmed by it no matter how he mobilizes troops for defense. However, Chaos procrastination allowed Binghua and the Justice World to successfully mobilize troops to form a blockade, and each world also prepared countermeasures in advance. Now that the war with the Eternal Ascended Ones has basically ended, a large number of defense forces and elite legions in the Fortress World are about to return to the defense. By then, even if the size of the Chaos Army expands several times, it will not be able to make any waves. After all, this army of chaos is just a remnant that escaped from the purified star field. Now it has only swallowed up a world on the edge of the world of justice, and has achieved limited growth. How can it compete with the world of justice, which has thousands of worlds? Zillow was only the first batch of reinforcements to arrive. There were dozens of defense army groups behind them, and more than a dozen elite regiments were gathering on their way. Dozens of more well-organized expedition fleets from various worlds have been assembled and are ready to reach the star field where Kaya's world is located through the gate of time and space. In order to completely eliminate the threat of chaos, the second batch of reinforcements is coming with a huge army of nearly 100 million people, and they are also heroic troops that can fight against the Eternal Ascended Ones. The current counterattack is just that the Demigod Legion wants to fight a beautiful counterattack to save face for itself before the Legion arrives. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 762. As the battle line advanced, the chaotic creatures in other areas temporarily gave up the time and space shields that impacted the Kaya world. At the same time, another message is also circulating in the psychic communication network constructed by chaotic creatures. It's an angel. There are actually angels here. I need the flesh and bodies of these angels. I want to rebuild my Chaos Angel Legion. Such a powerful organism. You can only be mine. Some Chaos Lords went crazy. Through the biological battleships on the battlefield, they stared with obsession at the angel warriors fighting bravely. Until an extremely majestic voice inserted into the spiritual communication. Enough. You stupid and short-sighted guys. Send out all your incarnations and core chaos bodies to destroy these angels. With them, our chaos army can't rush around the enemy. If we continue to delay like this, the only path left for us will be destruction. The scolding from the high-ranking Chaos Lords was still effective. At least the Chaos Lords had woken up from their madness. The angelic Chaos Lords are different from those mindless Chaos Behemoths and Chaos Bodies. They have an attitude of joy and fear. Because whether it is the male angels thousands of years ago or the group of overly powerful female angels that appear today, they all have one thing in common, that is, they are extremely powerful. But it was obvious that because of the appearance of angels, the Chaos Lords no longer conserved their own strength, and all took out their old guns, preparing to eat this group of female angels that suddenly appeared. Regarding the abnormality of the Chaos Army, Zillow, who was on the front line, felt it most clearly, because enemies were coming from all directions and air and space fighters gradually began to suffer losses. A judgment angel rushed to a chaotic creature that was several meters long and was about to wrap its tentacles around an aerial fighter plane. He swung the Fan Shen sword with a red blade in his hand. The terrifying super high temperature instantly melted through the carapace of the chaotic creature, revealing the burnt flesh and blood inside. The judgment angel did not leave immediately, turning back to avoid the green corrosive liquid sprayed from other directions. This time, the surging plasma flow at the edge of the Fan Shen sword in her hand became more violent, finding an opportunity to penetrate the body of the chaotic creature she had injured. The next moment, red high-temperature plasma jets spread out in its body, burning the chaotic creature's body with thousands of holes, and it lost its breath on the spot. The aerial fighter pilot who had escaped from the tentacles of the chaotic creature nodded to the angel warrior and accelerated the fighter plane away from the area, not forgetting to spray dense beam barrages at other chaotic creatures around him. The judgment angel exhaled and was about to find the next target when a feeling of heart palpitations came over her, and her sensing ability was immediately maximized. Something was approaching behind him. When he noticed this, the Judgment Angel turned around and swept away the Fan Shenjian in his hand without hesitation. At the same time, he incited his wings to retreat back to create distance. The next moment, a huge force came from Fan Shenjian, and she was knocked upside down for more than 10 meters. Seeing this opportunity, other surrounding chaotic creatures came closer without hesitation, and tentacles as thick as the mouth of a bowl immediately wrapped around the angel's body. At the same time, the corrosive acid that can melt iron into gold arrived. The next moment, as these tentacles suddenly tightened, the terrifying power that could twist metal into twists acted on the angel. The strong acid liquid continued to corrode the armor of the angel warrior, but fortunately, the armor of the Judgment Angel was very strong and extremely corrosion resistant, and the corrosion rate was very slow. At this time, the unknown figure that attacked the angel warrior before also attacked again. The slender and well-proportioned body is covered with smooth-looking bone armor. Except for the ferocious mouth full of fangs, there is only a pair of compound eyes on the face, and the rest of the face is covered by blocky bone armor. However, the gray-black wings on their backs that resembled angel wings gave them a sense of incongruity, as if beauty and ugliness coexisted in contradiction. They are the most powerful combat units under the Chaos Lord. They often act as the incarnation of the Chaos Lord, and can also serve as vanguards to break through some lines of defense that Chaos creatures cannot break through with numerical superiority. Each Chaos Angel takes a long time to manufacture, because the special muscle groups that make up their biological armor and body require a large amount of biomass and biological energy. Therefore, the Chaos Lords who cherish their own wings will never send them to join the frontal melee against enemies who can rely on numerical superiority. For thousands of years, the Chaos Lords have been trying to improve and strengthen the Chaos Angels, trying to replicate the ability to manipulate dark energy of their prototype, the male angel. Unfortunately, they all ended in failure. Only a few Chaos Lords still have some Chaos Angels transformed from extremely rare male angels. Because after the war that besieged the angel race 10,000 years ago, the chaotic creatures never found any trace of male angels. Now in this newly discovered civilization gathering area, they discovered traces of angels again. They went crazy and wanted to compete for these powerful bodies. It is a pity that today's Judgment Angels, the female angel legions who have learned from Marrow Heavenly Court, are all extremely powerful warriors, proficient in combat and dark energy tactics. Most of those angels thousands of years ago were civilian angels with little fighting power. How could they compare with today's Judgment Angels? This is a battlefield. Angel warriors will be besieged by the surrounding chaos creatures, and the attacking Chaos Angels are no exception. A stream of light passed by the Chaos Angel. The Chaos Angel immediately lost its balance and an arm flew out spinning. When the flow of light slowed down, a female Judgment Angel was revealed. She was holding a special type of Fan Shen sword Pojun Type 2, and traces of dark energy were constantly escaping around her body. The dissipated energy was like an invisible coat, and the flesh and blood remains that were close to it, and the virus aggregates quickly turned into fly ash like paper on fire as soon as they touched it. This look. Die. You blasphemer. This Judgment Angel is a new generation angel who grew up in a righteous world and has always been extremely proud of his identity and responsibilities. Now that I saw that the Chaos Angel actually had wings representing angels, I was filled with anger. These monsters who only knew destruction and killing were not worthy of possessing the wings that symbolized glory and holiness. Facing the anger of the Judgment Angel, the Chaos Angel just opened his mouth and roared. Unfortunately, the vacuum could not transmit sound, so no one could hear it. Immediately, the Chaos Angel rushed to his broken arm, picked it up and connected it to his broken arm. After a while, the wound was restored to its original state. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 763. Seeing that the Chaos Angel wanted to escape, the Judgment Angel prepared to give chase, but the chaos creatures all around surrounded her and blocked her in front of her. Seeing this, the Judgment Angel raised the Fan Shen sword, and the scorching energy quickly enveloped the sword, like the surface of an eternally burning star, emitting frighteningly high temperatures. As she violently waved the Fan Shen sword, the chaotic creatures blocking her burned with orange-red flames almost simultaneously, twisting their bodies crazily. The instigator's Judgment Angel directly broke through the burning chaos creatures and chased the fleeing Chaos Angel. The Judgment Angel, who had been entangled by the chaos creatures, broke free at this moment and chopped down the enemies around him. When he saw his captain running after the Chaos Angel, he quickly followed him. Of course, there was more than one Chaos Angel appearing on the battlefield at this moment. These chaotic creatures, which had the same wings as angels, launched a shameless sneak attack on the Judgment Angels as soon as they appeared. But it is a pity that the weapons of these Chaos Angels are neither god-killing weapons nor flame-level weapons. The damage they can cause to angels after breaking through the protective lining is extremely limited. But the angels are different. Although the weapons in their hands cannot be called top-notch, they are also the crystallization of the technology of the world of justice. Their power is naturally not weak. Neither the strong cuticle armor nor the biological armor can resist the flames of Fan Shenjian for a long time. Ultra-high temperature in cutting mode. Ziluo, who performed most brilliantly on the entire battlefield, was naturally approached by several Chaos Angels. Different from other Chaos Angels, these Chaos Angels who came to Ziluo did not have any biological armor on their bodies, and their faces were all handsome blonde men. Apart from the scarlet veins spreading from his chest, he is almost the same as a male angel. Even the armor he wears is the standard armor of former angels. At this moment, the eyes of these Chaos Angels were scanning 11 Luo's body with burning eyes, as if they were half-morons, which made 11 Luo frown. Ziluo was quite surprised by the appearance of the Chaos Angel. Although he had seen precedents of angels infected by chaos in the angel database of Merlot Heaven, he had never actually fought against them. Although they are using the body of a male angel, this is undoubtedly a provocation to angels, the strongest life form in the known universe. There are no words, and angels and chaotic creatures do not need words to communicate with each other. When the two meet, they only have the choice of either you die or I die. In an instant, Ziluo and several approaching Chaos Angels fought together, and then one of the Chaos Angels was skewered by the flaming sword in her hand. As the red halo of the sword flourished, the Angel of Chaos turned into nothingness in the fire without even letting out a scream. Such a ferocious scene made even the Chaos Lords who were not afraid of death feel fear when they saw it. This was inevitable. While they gained wisdom, they also lost the fearless courage of ordinary chaos creatures. However, Ziluo did not give them a chance to escape. He came to the side of another Chaos Angel like a phantom. By the time this one reacted, the flaming sword had already cut across his neck mercilessly. Seeing this, the other three Chaos Angels subconsciously paused as they rushed towards them, but Ziluo dragged the afterimage closer to them. With one thrust and one slash, the two Chaos Angels also followed in the footsteps of the previous one. One had his head penetrated, and the other was split in half diagonally from the shoulder. The last one left was cut in half by 11 Luo's blow from top to bottom. The Chaos Virus floating in the surrounding space, under the control of the Chaos Lord, wants to get close to the remains of these Chaos Angels and want to reunite their corpses. However, Ziluo's flame bombardment destroyed these corpses and the Chaos Virus into ashes, leaving not even a trace of residue behind. After discovering that even investing in the Chaos Angels could not restore the defeat in this area, the Chaos Lords had to consider their own options. Although they still occupy the space area around the world of Kaya, this war with the fleet of gods and angels has revealed the fact that they are unable to defeat and devour the world. If this continues, they will only die slowly. Chaos Lords are usually just unwilling to think too much, but this does not mean that they are stupid. Since this road is blocked, there is another way. Why continue to fight against an enemy who has no hope of victory? Before the angels appeared, the Chaos Lord had the confidence to break through the world of Kaya, devour the demigod army here, and expand his power. This is also the reason why they have stayed here, but now that they have made a decision, they immediately started preparations. After the God's fleet and the judgment angels led by 11 Lugo achieved sufficient results, they no longer continued to attack. Instead, they stabilized the front line and gradually retreated. According to the final statistics, this extremely smooth counterattack dealt a huge blow to the Chaos Army, at least reducing its strength by nearly 1/10. After that, the Kaya world went on the defensive again, and the offensive intensity of the Chaos Army became lower and lower day by day, which made the defending demigod army very strange. But this was a happy event after all. Hemingway just asked God's fleet to pay attention to their whereabouts and did not issue any other orders, because the second wave of reinforcements was about to arrive, and he did not want any accidents to happen before then. As a few days passed in the blink of an eye, the large-scale delivery of the Gate of Time and Space began again. This time it was not a large number of defense forces or elite legions that came. Instead, there were hundreds of giant metal ships of various types that could soar in the starry sky. As soon as they arrived in the Kaya star field, the expedition fleet began to disperse and began to clean up the scattered chaotic creatures along the way. Almost less than a day after the expedition fleet arrived in the world of Kaya, the gates of time and space began to operate frequently again. Defense forces of group army size were delivered to the world around the world of Kaya, as well as elite legions and their legion fleet. Before the Chaos Army could react, a tight blockade had been constructed. Of course, it is impossible to completely surround the army of Chaos, but the armies of the world of justice are stationed on the routes that must be passed by the surrounding worlds. Unless the Chaos Army is prepared to live on Earth for the next hundreds of years, it will never be possible to leave the scope of Kaya's world through any route. A massive encirclement and suppression war is about to begin, and the Kaya world, which is the front line against chaos, has become insignificant at this moment. However, the Supreme Tactical Planning Department, which planned this encirclement and suppression campaign, did not forget this powerful warrior who had resisted chaos for several years, and still assigned tasks to them. That is, when chaos evacuates Kaya, bite me hard like a shark and don't let them escape too easily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 764. For this task, Hemingway was happy to carry out it. As the Angel of Judgment, Ziluo naturally received the order to assist the demigod army. Sure enough, as soon as the army of the world of justice surrounded the army of chaos, the Chaos Lords noticed something unusual and prepared to withdraw from the world of justice, even if there were still the pursuers of the eternal ascended ones behind them. Regarding the difficult nut to crack in the world of justice, the Chaos Lords have already begun to think of giving up and are preparing to continue to move to other star fields. But as soon as the Chaos Army retreated, Hemingway, who was always paying attention to chaos, noticed the anomaly and immediately ordered the attack on the fleet of God. Ziluo also led the Angel of Judgment to attack proactively. The Chaos Army, which had no intention of fighting, was very decisive. They didn't care about the fleet of God and the angels hanging behind them, and quickly retreated towards the edge world they first infected. But it was already too late. A large number of expedition fleets had arrived ahead of time on the route that chaos must take when retreating, and directly entangled the Chaos Army. The Justice World Fleet and Legion Fleet in other areas began to shrink the encirclement at the same time and rushed towards the location of the Chaos Army. Binghua observed the entire battle and did not interfere with any of the Supreme Tactical Planning Department's battle plans. She was also very satisfied with the results. The main force of the Chaos Army was finally forced into the infected edge world. Finally, under the ruthless firepower of the Justice World Fleet, the planet's land was ignited, and any life was lost to the ruthless flames of purgatory. At this point, the main force of chaos that invaded the world of justice has been wiped out, and what is left are some small groups of chaotic creatures that are wandering in the chaos star field. These will be dealt with by experts in dealing with chaotic creatures, chaos hunters. The blockade on Kea and the surrounding world will only be lifted after the chaos hunters assess that the threat of chaos in this star field has been eliminated. Immediately, the entire world of justice fell into a carnival, because the official announcement of the world of God announced in the news that the world of justice had won the final victory in this war with the Eternal Ascended One that spanned more than 10 years. We drove away the intelligent machines that wanted to destroy our home. Our brave and great warriors have protected our homeland with their precious lives and blood. Their achievements will be immortal. The righteous world will always stand firm in this starry sky. Under the glory of the goddess, the world of justice will become more prosperous. She will be a safe haven for all us world dwellers, protecting us forever. Binghua did not continue to watch the long series of congratulations that followed. She did not really like this kind of psalm full of praise. She would rather see some substantial changes than this. Generally speaking, this war with the Eternal Ascended Ones has built up the self-confidence of the residents of the righteous world, allowing them to finally stand upright in front of the Eternal Ascending Ones and the Chaos Virus. You are no match for us. Although this kind of confidence is usually invisible and intangible, when it reaches a certain level, it will explode with tremendous power. As a leader, Binghua knew very well that this kind of self-confidence was of great significance to both the army and civilization. After the carnival, all the worlds turned to sadness. All the worlds made great sacrifices in this war. Countless victim nameplates, along with pensions and medals, were given to their parents, wives, children, in the hands of relatives and friends. Faced with the shock of the death of their loved one, the family members managed not to lose their composure in front of the people from the Ministry of Military Affairs, but when the door was closed, they cried while holding the relics in their arms. Of course, there was sadness but also joy and pride. Some fathers saw their sons standing in front of the door with a smile, wearing a straight uniform of the National Defense Forces, wearing a medal, and gave him a tight hug without saying a word. But the mother stood by with red eyes and asked her husband not to hold her son too tightly and strangle her son. After the excitement and sadness of the initial gathering, grand funerals were held in each world, and extremely magnificent monuments and cemeteries were built for those warriors who sacrificed their lives to protect the just world. The deeds and glorious resumes of these warriors will be engraved on this land forever. Their lives passed away like dust, but the light they bloomed was enough to illuminate the entire dark universe. This is the tribute to the World Monument of Elers, written by the Ever-Queen. Ililio placed the memorial object in his hand on the platform and said something to his comrades who had been buried here. We won. After saying that, Iliro turned around and left. There was no need to say anything more. This sentence was enough for them. Although these defense forces do not have any lofty beliefs, all of them have a very simple idea, which is to protect the home where their relatives are now. Binghua had already expected the victory in this war, so she did not appear too excited. To be honest, since the end of the physical war, it has been difficult for her to feel the joy of victory. Because almost none of her opponents are stronger than her, and victory is almost certain. The only difference is the price and time it takes. Originally, Binghua was planning to start her third army building plan immediately, but after thinking about it, she postponed it for 20 years. She planned to let these warriors who had been fighting for a just world for more than 10 years rest for a while and enjoy the benefits. A hard-won time of peace. 20 years is nothing to her anyway, not even a fraction of her age. But before that, it was time to make final preparations for the great expedition plan that had not yet been launched. Binghua came to a giant closed metal door in the core area of the star ring of the God's throne world, and the holographic projection of the heavenly sword was revealed on the side. Heavenly sword, open this door. Binghua gave instructions, Tianjian nodded, and criss-crossing energy circuits lit up on the surrounding thick metal walls, and the thick metal door slowly rose upwards. With a clanking sound, the metal door stopped rising, and Binghua stepped into the room behind the door. What you see are cylindrical transparent crystal pillars extending down from the dome. There is nothing else inside, but naked bodies, white wings folded and eyes closed, quietly suspended in the crystal pillars. Female angel in the middle. Binghua came to a crystal pillar marked third generation sacred Zoe Lan at the bottom, looked at Elan whose blonde hair was slightly floating like a sleeping beauty, and spread out his palm to form a data stream composed of countless miniature sacred language inscriptions. Appear. Binghua independently derived Elan's dark plane encrypted information from it, and then the information floated to Elan in the crystal column and merged into her body. The sky sword projection on the side began to report a series of data. Angel Elan's genetic engine has been started and is converting dark energy. Begins to inject energy into the super gene and is restoring its activity. It is expected that Angel Elan will wake up in 5 minutes. I was supposed to post it last night, but I forgot about it. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 765. Elan felt as if she had slept for a long time. She remembered that she seemed to be in Kesha's arms. Her eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and her body had lost the strength to move. She just wanted to have a good sleep. No, she didn't want to sleep yet, the queen was still holding her, and she wanted to enjoy the warm and peaceful feeling of being in the queen's arms for a while longer. Thinking of this, Elan suddenly opened his blue eyes, and found that he was naked and trapped by a crystal wall of unknown material. He subconsciously mobilized dark energy, and there was a sudden explosion. The huge energy impact immediately blasted the crystal wall into countless fragments, and Elan also fell to the ground. The white wings behind him spread out, covering his perfect body forward. After all, Elan was still a little unaccustomed to being naked, but soon Elan discovered that the broken crystal pieces did not fly around as she expected, but were instead blown away by an invisible force. Imprisoned in mid-air. You're quite angry now, Alan. Binghua put down his raised hand, and the imprisoned crystal wall fragments fell to the ground one after another, making a clattering sound. Binghua, what's wrong with you? Where is this place? Elan's mind was a little unable to turn around. He looked around and saw a familiar face floating in the crystal column. As you can see, Alan, you have fallen in the Battle of Fraser. I reawakened you through reincarnation technology, and thousands of years have passed since the battle in which you fell. Elan's eyes widened slightly, and thousands of thoughts were swirling in his mind. Binghua placed the steaming tea on the table in front of Elan, who was wearing a white gauze skirt, and motioned for her to taste it. Elan was not polite to Binghua. He picked up the cup and took a sip, then put down the teacup and said with some melancholy, I didn't expect so many things to happen after my death. Binghua leaned on the soft chair, looked at Aiyan's face, and asked aloud. Queen Keisha said when she handed you over to me, if you feel you are tired, you can live the life you want. Anyway, that's the general meaning. Elan didn't say anything when he heard this. After being silent for a while, he suddenly asked. Do you think I am still the angel Elan I once was? I have a very deep memory of my own death. My mind tells me that I have fallen, but I am still really alive. Seeing Elan's troubled look, Binghua sighed helplessly. Although the technology of Data Soul was developed by me, I want to make it clear that even I, as a developer, don't know whether you are still the same person as you were before. This is also the reason why I am unwilling to spread this technology, and since you have all the memories and emotions of Elan, then you are the real Elan, why bother to keep struggling with this meaningless problem? From now on, you are the only one in the world, Alan, a former holy leftist. After saying this, seeing that Alan's mood finally stabilized, Binghua revealed his purpose of initiating angel reincarnation. Alan, I woke you up because I have a purpose that I need to achieve. I believe you should have some understanding of the world of justice that I live in after what I just described. Nowadays, the world of justice has just experienced the test of war, and although the lives of the people seem peaceful and happy, but I have a feeling that the next war will come again in the near future, so I need to prepare early. I need the assistance of strong warriors, wise commanders, and high-ranking angels, so that my people will suffer fewer casualties, and there will not be so many sad mothers and families. After Binghua finished speaking, he looked at Ilan, who was slightly frowning, and said one last thing. I will not force you to do anything or wake you up from your slumber, partly because I am the former holy leftist, and you and I are both sisters. On the other hand, I need your strength. Of course, if you feel that you are tired of fighting, you can also live the life you want. The jurisdiction of the world of justice I established is quite vast, with thousands of worlds. I guarantee that there will always be a world suitable for you to spend the rest of your life. Moreover, the world of justice is not the Merlot heaven. What you need to protect are just a group of mortals. There will be no rewards, so there is no need to feel any psychological burden. Binghua said it very casually, but in fact what she was thinking was very simple. Of course she would welcome those who are willing to continue fighting for justice, but she would not force anyone who was unwilling. After all, they have paid their lives for justice and finally gained a second life. They have the opportunity to choose their own future path. Binghua, although your justice is different from Queen Kessa's justice, since they are both for maintaining order and protecting the weak, I have no reason to refuse your invitation. Alan said seriously. There was another reason that although Binghua didn't say, Alan knew it. The Merlot Heavenly Court prohibits reincarnation technology, a technology that desecrates life. If she returns to the Merlot Heavenly Court, it will cause a huge blow to Kesha's prestige. This can be seen from Kesha's action of giving information about her dark plane to Binghua, so Alan has no intention of returning to the known universe immediately. But Alan believes that one day, she will be able to meet Queen Kesha again, and it shouldn't be too long. Alan's joining made Binghua very happy. It was not just as simple as getting the help of a god-level angel, the former holy left wing. What Binghua is doing now is, at a large level, like a creator, building an ideal civilization. At a small level, it can be regarded as a great attempt to achieve an ideal. During this process, even with Binghua's tenacious character, he could not help but feel a sense of loneliness, but Binghua was able to wash away this feeling of loneliness with endless research and new things. Until Angel Ran found the world of justice, although Binghua was a little bit steely about Ran giving up her position in Merlot Heaven and coming to find her, in fact, she was still very happy about Ran's arrival. After all, who can refuse to have a group of familiar partners and sisters by his side as he moves towards his ideals? Although the relationship between Ailan and Binghua cannot be said to be close, they are sisters who have worked together for nearly 10,000 years. Coupled with her considerate and gentle personality, it is difficult for Binghua to have any ill feelings towards her. You must know that when Ailan served as the Holy Left Wing, even Ruaning did not question Ailan's ability. This is enough to illustrate Ailan's status and popularity among the angels. After awakening Ailan, Binghua accelerated the speed of awakening other angels. With Ailan as a lobbyist, most of the awakened angels were willing to join Binghua's command and fight for a just world. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 766. This is also the reason why Binghua was the first to awaken Ailan. Among the data souls brought by Kesha, most of them were angel warriors who had been under Kesha's banner and had a strong sense of identification with the belief in justice. With Alan as a lobbyist, More angel warriors who are willing to fight for justice can join the banner of the righteous world instead of finding a place to spend the rest of their lives. Binghua's status is enough for these angel warriors to respect and call her queen, but they will not unconditionally support any of Binghua's actions like Ran and others. They will judge whether what Binghua does conforms to their inner principles, and then they will consider whether to fight for Binghua's righteous world. In fact, Alan was reluctant to interfere with the judgment of her sisters at first, but after she lived in the world of justice for a period of time, she was attracted. Although the difference between a just world and a just order is only 2 words, the difference between them is vastly different. Under the banner of the righteous order, civilizations rarely contact each other and help each other. Sometimes 2 civilizations separated by planetary systems have very different living standards. One side has a worry-free life and abundant supplies, while the other side lacks food and clothing and lives in poverty. Because the angels were prepared not to interfere with the development of other civilizations, they turned a blind eye to these scenes and spent most of their time watching indifferently for thousands of years. Alan once wanted to change all this, but on the one hand it was the law of the order of justice. Angels should not interfere in the affairs of the mortal world. On the other hand, it was also the lack of cooperation from other worlds under the order of justice. Although the order of justice looks beautiful from a macro perspective, with powerful angels protecting all the weak and preventing them from being bullied by the strong, in essence, civilizations that believe in the order of justice are still independent existences. They will not work together or help each other. Instead, they will continue to collide and conflict over various trivial matters. Although with the mediation of angels, these conflicts will not turn into bloodshed, they will always make angels feel that these mortal civilizations do not allow them to worry and often look for trouble. But the world of justice is different. Alan saw a rare spirit here, that is, the spirit of fighting against enemies together and advancing and retreating together. Although each world has its own customs and unique culture, sometimes the 2 worlds even quarrel with each other over whose environment and culture are better. But when one of the worlds is in trouble, the 2 worlds that were scolding each other before will immediately become as close as one family, helping each other to tide over the difficulties. This can be seen from the history of the justice world. Every large-scale war in the justice world affects some worlds located in the edge star fields. But in every war, each world will send its most elite troops to participate in the battle to protect those worlds from infringement. Even Hyuka, who is the leader of the justice world, often participates in wars. If the justice order is a loose alliance of theocratic societies dominated by angels, the justice world is an alliance of civilizations and mutual aid that is united with the goddess Binghua and the concept of the justice world as its core symbol, with the purpose of jointly defending against enemies and advancing and retreating together. If Elan is allowed to comment, this is comparable to the heaven on earth that some backward theocratic worlds have been pursuing. Of course, it is impossible to say that a just world has no shortcomings. The first is the continuous war that is limited by the surrounding environment. As well as a certain degree of class solidification, the rise of biological and enhanced technology in the world of justice has led to a lack of fresh blood in management and senior management, but this has been temporarily obscured by rapid development. But when the development of the world of justice enters a period of slowdown or even stagnation, then this problem will explode. However, Alan believes that Binghua can also see this. But such a world is beautiful enough, so beautiful that Alan wants to carefully care for her to grow up until she is strong enough to handle any wind and rain. Binghua also selected some angels with scientific research qualifications among the angels reincarnated through data souls to enrich the scientific research capabilities of the star ring in the world of God. You must know that Binghua now wears many hats. Whenever a war breaks out, her scientific research projects have to be suspended, which makes her distressed for a long time. Now Binghua has finally found a few angels who can share her work, and these angels with scientific research talents happen to be a little tired of fighting and killing all day long. and the days that Binghua promised to spend his free time studying new things and wandering around the justice world seemed pretty good. When the angels who joined the justice world reached a certain level, Binghua gave Ilan an angel legion, called the Second Angel Legion. Although many female angels feel a little unhappy about the second number, they can't say anything. After all, the world of justice already has a mixed male and female angel army, which is the first angel army led by Kaza. After the organization was established, Binghua began to equip these naked reincarnated angels with weapons, all of which were Fan Shenji Unpa Type 2. The armor was also changed from the simple Merlot Heavenly Standard Angel armor to a fully protective armor with the characteristics of the world of justice. On the basis of Merlot Heaven's angel armor, there are additional protections for the abdomen, arms, forearms, thighs, calves, etc., as well as an internal multifunctional protective lining, which can be said to be fully armed. The defensive power of the set of armor alone can resist the slashing of ordinary flaming swords, which can provide great convenience for angels when fighting against the eternal ascended ones who mainly focus on energy attacks. After completing this, Binghua finally started his second army building plan, and a large amount of transformation equipment and resources were mobilized to the God's throne world in advance. The demigod warriors and the divine guards also gradually withdrew from the world of Kaya to the world of God's throne for rest and recuperation, while continuing to expand in scale. The manufacturing factories in Fanshan world have not slowed down their production scale because of the cessation of the war. Every day, countless latest models of power armor and various weapons leave the factory and are transported to various worlds via transport ships. However, the Elite Legion has stopped expanding and has even further opened up retirement options, allowing soldiers to freely apply for retirement, which has never happened before. There are also some soldiers who were seriously injured in the war. With the Legion's consent, they will be assigned to some worlds to serve as peace officers. This job pays well, the work is relatively leisurely, and there is not much danger. This is a policy issued by the Ministry of Military Affairs under Binghua's instruction, so that these soldiers who have devoted their youth for a just world can have a relatively peaceful and happy life in the future. I believe that most criminals who dare to violate the laws of justice will be frightened to the point where their legs weaken when they meet these vigilantes, who are generally over 2 meters tall, full of muscles, and filled with evil spirits. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 767. Ililio looked at the special invitation from the military department of the Divine Throne World displayed on his projection terminal, and wondered whether he should agree or not. Because it is specifically marked on the invitation, if you do not agree to the invitation, please delete the invitation letter immediately, which gives the invitee great autonomy. Moreover, the content of this invitation letter is extremely special. It does not indicate which army you will go to after going to the God's throne world, or what department you need to enter. But it is specially marked at the end. After accepting the invitation, you will get priority placement rights in the God's throne world, which is the qualification to migrate. This qualification is very valuable in the world of justice. The qualification for emigration means that you can immigrate to a livable world closer to the throne of God, and it also comes with a variety of extremely complete benefits and civil rights. If residents who do not have the right to immigrate want to immigrate, they can only immigrate to peripheral worlds or worlds that are willing to absorb immigrants. The procedures required are extremely complicated and require a long review period. To be honest, Ililio is not too optimistic about this immigration qualification, because the world of Elleries is the original world, which is relatively close to the core area of the world of justice. But after thinking for a long time, Ililio finally agreed to the invitation, and soon the terminal sent the assembly date information, as well as the boarding location. Due to confidentiality regulations, Illyrio did not tell his wife about this matter, but only said that he would be transferred to the world of gods for a period of time. The wife didn't say anything. The two had been together for decades and were no longer as inseparable as before. Facing her husband's departure, she just told him to take care of himself when he was alone. For his wife's understanding, Illyrio felt very happy. After a few days of being affectionate with his wife at home, Illyrio boarded the transport ship to the world of God's throne. After more than half a month of traveling at super light speed, Illyrio, who witnessed several worlds along the way, finally arrived at the center of the world of justice, the world where the legendary goddess lives. As soon as he arrived in the world of God's throne, Illyrio couldn't help but be shocked by the prosperity and orderly staggered majestic buildings here. Compared with the green and rustic towns in his hometown in the world of Elleries, this place gave him a different feeling. However, Illyrio only admired it for a while before he was taken to the world of Divine Throne number 8 by the personnel of the Ministry of Military Affairs who came to pick him up. It is also the 8th planet in the Divine Planet system. After a long period of development, there are clusters of low buildings erected on the surface of Planet 8. Their surface coating is very similar to the surrounding environment. If you only observe it with the naked eye, it will be difficult to find these buildings. Welcome to the Renovation and Strengthening Research Institute under the Ministry of Military Affairs. I am Isia, a researcher in the testing department who is responsible for receiving invited people. A beautiful woman in a white research coat introduced herself aloud, and Illyrio nodded in response. Afterwards, Illyrio followed the female researcher named Isia and entered the Institute of Transformation and Strengthening. After arriving in a room, Illyrio stood on a platform at Isia's signal. The next moment, circles of silver metal rings fell from above, wrapping Illyrio's entire body in them. Don't be nervous, Captain Illyrio. This is just a very common test. We need to know your physical information. Isia quickly explained aloud. She just saw clearly that the muscles on Illyrio's body tensed up in an instant, as if he was a beast about to bite people. Soon, as a white light swept across Illyrio's body, his body structure diagram was uploaded into the Research Institute's database. Then came the common blood draws, genetic testing and many other procedures. Although Illyrio was an extremely calm warrior on the battlefield, he still became a little impatient when he was treated like this. Fortunately, the damn testing procedure was finally over, and Illyrio was assigned a place to live. A few days later, Isia came to find Illyrio again, bringing with him a test report. Captain Illyrio, according to our tests, your left leg and right arm are missing. You are now using a military Type 25 mechanical prosthetic limb. Yeah, what's weird about that? I am a soldier of the National Defense Forces, and it is normal for me to have physical disabilities. Isia waved her hands a little embarrassed. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that to undergo the enhanced transformation of the third-generation super-modified warrior, you need to have a sound body. Only in this way will you be perfect. Illyrio frowned when he heard this. To be honest, he was full of doubts as soon as he came here, but his duty as a soldier meant that he did not choose to ask more questions. The third generation of super-modified warriors has been strengthened. That's right, it's the third generation. Let me explain to you briefly. The most powerful combat legion in the Justice world today is the Demigod Legion stationed in the God's Throne world. They are the second generation of super-modified warriors. They are super warriors that have been enhanced in all aspects based on the first generation, which are the elite legions stationed in various worlds. As Asia spoke, she turned on her own projection equipment, projected a body model of a strong man in the void, and pointed at the model to explain to Illyrio. And the third generation super transformed warrior you are about to accept is the latest scientific research result of the goddess. Based on the second generation demigod warrior, a number of top technologies such as super genes have been added. Faced with the various nouns that kept popping up in Althea's mouth, Illyrio frowned and interrupted Althea's narration. Just tell me the result. Okay, I forgot that you are not a scientific researcher. In short, you only need to know that when you receive the third generation of super transformation and enhancement, you have already broken away from the category of mortals. You will step into the realm of God. Your skin can withstand the burning of thousands of degrees of heat, your flesh and blood are full of toughness, and your bones are as heavy as the hardest alloy. You will become the most powerful warrior under the goddess, and even the most cruel and ruthless times will not be able to leave a mark on your body. When Isaiah said these words, her tone was filled with envy, but not everyone could accept super transformation and enhancement. Every qualified being has made immortal achievements in the war with the eternal ascended ones. They are excellent commanders and warriors, and their loyalty and will have gone through the most brutal test. It can be regarded as Binghua's attempt for the next generation of Legion. If the third generation of super transformation and enhancement on prototypes like Alilo achieves great success, the next step will be the popularization of this technology. Although the strength may be slightly worse than the prototypes like Alilo, it is still enough to surpass today's demigod army. When the time comes, Binghua will be ready to launch his long-awaited expedition plan to completely eliminate the threat of the eternal ascended ones. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 768. After learning the inside story of the super transformation and enhancement, even Alilo's character couldn't help but be a little excited. The word God is not an illusory concept in the world of justice, but is actually used to describe those who can fight against giant ships alone. The existence of a physical body soaring through the stars. It just so happens that there are such beings described as gods in the world of justice, and there are quite a few of them. Those angel warriors walking high and low on the battlefield once made Alilo extremely envious. And Isaiah actually said that he might become that kind of existence. Anyone would be excited and have a strong sense of expectation. Because for soldiers, only duty, strength, and glory are indispensable in life. After confirming that he was about to undergo transformation, Alilo cooperated extremely well and removed his prosthetic limb again and lay down in the biological regeneration equipment. Under the careful control of researchers at the institute, Alilo's severed hands and feet began to grow a little bit again after decades. During this period, Aliro could not feel any pain or abnormality because he was in deep sleep. During this period, the institute also used equipment manufactured by the Stellar Ring Laboratory to debug and create the enhanced version of Alilir. Artificial organs and some special materials are required. Compared with super soldiers who only need to inject super genes that are compressed and prepared in advance and spread from one point to the whole body for rapid transformation and strengthening, transforming warriors requires the replacement of a large number of body organs. The advantages and disadvantages of the two are no secret in the world of justice, but the existence created by combining the advantages of the two is a super modified warrior that combines the power of a super warrior with the cheapness of a modified warrior. After several months of growth and recovery, Alilo's incomplete limbs were finally fully developed, but they were still very fragile and required targeted recovery training. After all this was completed, Alilo finally ushered in his strengthening day. At the signal of the researchers around him, Aliro stepped onto the special metal table. The extended fixture fixed him on the bed to prevent his body from moving. Inject the sleeping reagent to calm the person undergoing transformation. Alilo only felt like a mosquito bite on his neck, and then his eyelids became heavier and heavier, and he finally fell into a deep sleep. After Aliro fell asleep, the intensive transformation surgery really began. First, the originally smooth wall suddenly cracked, and dozens of robotic arms of different sizes unfolded from it. The metal platform where Alilo was sitting also began to rise, and finally the force was erected, and then a special force field spread out and enveloped the entire transformation room. What followed was a more bloody transformation process. Alilir's human organs were removed one by one and replaced with more powerful and efficient artificial organs. Under the special position, Illiro's vital signs remained stable even if his chest was completely opened. This transformation process took several days. The last step was to inject special fluid metal atoms into Illiro's body. These metal atoms would gradually erode Illiro's original calcium bones and replace them with extremely hard ones. Special alloy skeleton with extremely strong toughness. In order not to cause any damage to the host's spirit and brain, this process takes several months. During this period, the artificial organs in Illiro's body will be completely integrated and tightly integrated with the alloy skeleton. This entire process requires the computing power of the Tianjian system to assist to ensure that there will be no omissions. When all of this is completed, Illiro has broken away from the category of mortals and no longer belongs to the human species. He will lose his fertility and be unable to reproduce. From now on, there will be an invisible gap between him and mortals. When Illiro felt something and slowly opened his eyes, he realized that he was no longer on the metal platform before coma, but in a prototype crystal column, with an invisible force holding him up. He was floating in the air. Soon as Illiro woke up, this power gradually disappeared, and Illiro was finally able to put his feet on the real body. This feeling made him extremely at ease. After putting on the personal lining sent by the researcher, Illiro saw Althea again. Compared to the last time, Althea looked obviously haggard. But what surprised Illiro the most was that when he focused his attention, the tiny pores on Isea's face, her beating heart, her breathing, and any subtle movements could not escape his eyes. Even the words spoken by the researcher who was talking in a low voice in another room were clearly visible, and his brain could easily process and distinguish such a large amount of messy information. Even while thinking about this, he was still having a normal conversation with Isea. Apart from this, he also felt that his body was extremely relaxed. I remember that when he just woke up and left the crystal column, he accidentally tore off the alloy door of the bathroom. The feeling was not much easier than tearing a piece of paper. However, the consequences were serious. His skin and muscles also suffered severe lacerations due to his reckless actions. It seemed that his body could not withstand such a huge force. But fortunately, his brain naturally made adaptive adjustments soon, allowing Illiro to live a normal life without injuring himself again because he didn't know how to withdraw his strength. Another thing that surprised Illiro was his body. His height now reached 2 meters, and the muscles all over his body were as if they were made of fine steel. The proportions were also perfect, neither bloated nor thin. The last thing that troubled him was his weight. Now he weighed nearly 150 kilograms. Even if he wasn't wearing any equipment, as long as he didn't pay attention to the strength of his walking, he would make a slightly dull sound. After a series of tests and inspections, Illiro's various reports showed that the current maximum output of Illiro's body can reach a level of nearly 6 tons. The ultimate level cannot be tested because his body cannot withstand his continued acceleration. The consequences of great effort. All artificial organs are functioning well without any rejection or other adverse reactions. At the same time, the brain development of Illiro is also slowly increasing. When it is confirmed that all aspects of the development of Illiro's body have stalled, the last and most critical process of the third-generation super-transformed warrior will cause him to undergo a complete qualitative change. That is the third-generation Universal Supergenetic Enhancement Project, which will completely change Illiro's physical structure from the inside out, allowing him to truly transform into a super-modified warrior comparable to a god. No matter the deadly ultraviolet radiation in the universe or the ultra-low temperature of the vacuum, no harm can be done to Illiro's body. This is the body of God that truly surpasses the ultimate strength of flesh and blood.